Hey everyone, I'm Brent Skarkey from the State Chamber. It's an election year, and we're excited to kick off a brand new interview series on OklahomaDecides.com. The site, the best way to stay up to date with the latest candidate developments in our state. The State Chamber's Chad Warmington going one-on-one with statewide office candidates to give the business community and Oklahomans a great look at what the men and women who are running for office are all about. The interview does not constitute an endorsement from the State Chamber. It's just a place where they can be heard and voters can learn more.
Well, we're excited here to be with Bob Sullivan. Bob's running for insurance commissioner in the great state of Oklahoma. I can tell you a little bit about Bob. He's got more than 20 years of experience in the property and casualty insurance industry. He holds multiple professional designations: certified insurance counselor, certified risk manager, chartered property and casualty underwriter. And now he is running for insurance commissioner to put industry experience to work for the state. And so I think, to quote LeBron James, you're going to take your talents to 23rd and Lincoln, or close to where the insurance office is, and put all that experience to work. Thanks for being here, and thanks for being willing to run.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. Yeah, to your point exactly. I'm running for this office because Oklahoma families and businesses are seeing some of the highest rates for their insurance spend in the country. Yeah. And with all that experience and all that time in the industry, both on the carrier side early in my career to my last 15 plus years on the brokerage side, I don't think that's justified. Yeah. And I think it's putting our state at a competitive disadvantage. And I think it's something that we need to fix, and we need to take serious action to fix these problems so that Oklahoma can remain the viable, vibrant state that we have always known ourselves to be, and we want everybody else to know that as well.
Amen. We'll get back to that. We were just talking about he's hearing it all over the campaign trail. We do as well on what we can do on premiums and rate increases. But I want to start out kind of at a high level and get kind of your vision for Oklahoma that you want to execute through this office. I mean, when you think about why you're running and what your vision for Oklahoma is, how do you plan on executing that vision through the insurance commissioner?
Sure. I mean, so my vision for Oklahoma, as I said earlier, is to be a competitive place for businesses to relocate, for our existing businesses to thrive, for families to be able to live their lives and call Oklahoma home. I'm a fourth generation Oklahoman myself, and have no intention of going anywhere else because I love this state and I want to see it thrive. And I don't want to see our insurance marketplace be a stumbling block for that. Obviously, homeowners insurance is the talk of the day, talk of this campaign, I believe. And I believe it's pivotal to ensuring Oklahoma is a successful place for people to be and live their lives. Beyond that, I also think that the insurance department needs to be the advocate for the consumer and for the business owner when they have difficulties with their insurance carrier partners and the people who are providing that coverage. So I really want to instill and ensure that the OID remains that advocacy arm and that avenue for Oklahomans to go get help when they need it.
Yeah, I bet, and I was just thinking as you were talking, and it's so true, I bet there has maybe never been more attention on maybe this office when it's been up for election than right now at this period in time. I mean, we were talking earlier, right before we started taping, and you're getting asked everywhere. And so it's a really interesting time to be running for insurance commissioner when it is top of the mind. I mean, it's a unique opportunity.
It really is. And throughout my entire career, this is absolutely the most attention that this office has ever received, especially this early in the campaign season. Typically, you see one, maybe two candidates seek the office for insurance commissioner. We often see incumbents run unopposed. And I think the time and the sentiment in the community and in the state of Oklahoma is that change is required. And I'm happy to see this much attention come to the office. Yeah. I really am. I think it's a pivotal role. I think we have important work to do with the Oklahoma Insurance Department and in ensuring that Oklahomans have that advocacy and have that resource available to them.
Yeah, agreed. We'll come back to kind of what you want to do with that office. I wanted to kind of, again, stay a little bit kind of higher level. So we have created an initiative called Oklahoma Competes, and you may have heard us talking about it. And really it's a new way for us to really look at our state's competitiveness. How are we competitive regionally, and then how are we competitive nationally? How do you think about the Insurance Commissioner's Office being able to contribute to Oklahoma's long-term economic competitiveness? You've touched a little bit about on that, but in a more expansive view, what's your role to help us be long-term economically competitive in this role?
Well, I mean, I think it gets down to kitchen table economics ultimately. When a business is looking to come to Oklahoma, they're looking at the economics of our state and our cost of living, and we've been blessed to have a very low cost of living here in Oklahoma for a great many years. And what we're starting to see, in my opinion, is that insurance is eating away at that competitive edge and dulling our competitive edge. And I think that's the role of the OID, is to be the advocate for the consumer, do what they can to bring new carriers and new competition into the marketplace, to ultimately bring rates down and premiums down for homeowners and businesses, so that we can sharpen that edge up.
That's right. That's right. Again, kind of staying a little bit high level, but you're kind of setting yourself up, and this is a great, because I'm getting the flavor of what we have with this question. Is kind of give us your perspective and how do you define free enterprise, and where the government should draw the line between setting fair rules and getting in the way of markets. That's a really big, important part of your role.
Absolutely.
And so, how do you personally define free enterprise, and then how do you see that definition impacting your work at the commission?
Well, I think I'm obviously running as a Republican, and certainly have free enterprise as a core component of my belief structure. Capitalism is key, especially when you're talking about a vibrant and thriving marketplace, and insurance is a marketplace just like that. We need to have more competition from stable, admitted carriers in our state. We've seen multiple insurance providers leave the state or leave certain lines of business, most notably commercial property and homeowners insurance, in an attempt to maintain their profitability for their shareholders, which I wholeheartedly respect. I mean, they have a right to make a profit. When I see the exodus of those carriers and the effect that has on Oklahoma consumers and homeowners and business owners and farm owners, and then I reconcile that against some record-setting profits that some of these major insurance carriers are making, most notably in 2025, record-setting profits from a number of top insurance companies. I have to wonder, are we just being squeezed out in the interest of those, out-of-state companies? I believe in putting Oklahoma first in that regard. So it does sort of rub against some of the free enterprise, but I'm not a fan of over-regulation of any industry. I don't believe that the insurance commissioner and the insurance department should have a gavel and major control over rate making, but I do believe there needs to be more transparency and oversight and governance into the rate increases that are put forth before the Oklahoma Insurance Department. And maybe to get off into the weeds a little bit, we're seeing most of the insurance written in Oklahoma, a greater percentage of it than ever before, in the surplus lines and excess lines of the insurance industry, which is not subject to the same degree of regulation. So I want to see more admitted carriers writing in our state that are putting those rates before the OID, and we're operating together collaboratively in good faith for the benefit of all.
Yeah. Well, that leads right into kind of my next question. It's really kind of a two-part question. So kind of in your opinion, what are the biggest drivers of these rate increases? And then maybe the second part, and you kind of touched on it, but I think it's really important to touch on both. So, we've seen states like Florida have found some reasonable ways to ensure policyholders receive the coverage and the claims performance that are reflected in their policies. How do you think that we can tweak Oklahoma's insurance environment? How will it look different if you're elected and we can impact it? So again, starting off with, what do you think is driving it? And then give us some ideas on some of the solutions you think might be out there.
Well, I mean, the cadence from the insurance industry regarding Oklahoma hasn't changed much in my career. Starting out as a company underwriter with an insurance carrier, traveling to their home offices in Boston or in Massachusetts, they were just convinced that Oklahoma was nothing but tornadoes and hail. And had very very little understanding of how vibrant and beautiful our state is. They could only see the wind and the hail. And that certainly drives a great deal of the rate that we see Oklahomans paying. But I would also say that sometimes insurance carriers can be their own worst enemies in how they approach handling a claim and the timeliness with which they do that. Most insurance policies of any quality have some type of coverage for either loss of income or loss of use of a home. And the longer that claim drags out, the longer it takes the insurance company to put their policyholder back together again, so to speak, the greater that cost it just goes up and up and up. So I think they can be their own worst enemy in the timeliness with which they approach their claims handling. And that immediately gets passed along to the policyholder and to the other policyholders written by that company. So I think time is a major asset, or it can be a major liability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I certainly think our litigation environment in Oklahoma is on a more upward trend than in recent history. We're seeing more litigation, not just against insurance companies, but just against business owners, and the average cost for auto claims is going up and up and up. We're seeing more severity to those claims. And that's not to blame solely on litigation. Your automobile costs more to repair and replace, and the computer components that go into that vehicle are different than they were 25 years ago. It's just a different landscape than what we've seen. And, insurance is not the fastest to adapt to trends like that, and they're often looking in the rearview mirror. It's difficult to be proactive in your rate making. But it is something that it's just an ongoing trend.
Yeah. Do you see, some ways that you could work, through the insurance department, potentially through the legislature, and maybe finding some reasonable ways to kind of encourage, or other policies that are, maybe, unwittingly we put things in place that are driving rates? Are there some low-hanging fruit that you think we could go to try to drive down rates?
I think there's definitely some ability from the OID to look at claims handling and from a benchmarking perspective of just average cost it takes to get a claim from the bad thing happening, whether it's the hailstorm or the tornado, to the time of closure, to where that policyholder has been paid and made whole, the construction's redone. I think we could take a closer look at benchmarking how other states or how other insurance companies potentially are approaching that process, and finding best practices to share with the carriers writing in the state of Oklahoma. From a legislative perspective, there's a plethora of insurance-related legislation coming forth just in this session, starting February 1st alone. And I will applaud the Oklahoma legislature for taking this topic seriously and doing what they can through their processes to try and make things better for everybody in Oklahoma. Ultimately, we'll see what the fruits of that labor are at the end of the session, what legislation makes it through, but I'm interested in what they can accomplish in a short amount of time. There's a lot of effort being put toward it, and for that I applaud them.
Yeah. Well, I think they're hearing about it on the doorstep too, and just like you were saying, you keep hearing about it on the campaign trail. One piece of legislation that's kind of potentially making its way through this session would be adding new entities like the Attorney General to the annual rate setting process. Do you have a perspective on any of those proposals?
I think that certainly adds a different perspective to the conversation. Anytime you're bringing in the top dog attorney in the state of Oklahoma, I think that's going to garner the attention of insurance carriers, and it may put some at a state of unease. I think that it's healthy to have more voices heard in the conversation. And I think that if potentially there are insurance carriers that don't take the rate setting or rate approval process seriously, perhaps this will get more of their attention, and they will take it more seriously. So for that, I'm in favor of that sort of a conversation.
Yeah.
I don't want to put fear in the conversation. That's not healthy. But perhaps just a little more serious tone is needed.
Sure. Well, and I think that's the gig you're signing up for, is help navigate those issues, right?
Absolutely.
And that's where I think, you stated, real clearly kind of your perspective on free enterprise and balancing out that regulatory framework, and that's what you get to go do with this position. So kind of the last, kind of wrap it up, give us kind of your closing thoughts on the race and, why you're running, and just kind of how, what would you leave us with as we're thinking about your race?
Sure. I mean, I think I would leave it with, in terms of my candidacy, I consider this race a personal mission. My goal is to not only succeed in being elected the insurance commissioner in the state of Oklahoma, but to do some fantastic work in the short amount of time that I would have in that role, whatever God provides me, and to leave that office with a vibrant, thriving, and competitive insurance marketplace for the benefit of all Oklahomans. I want to bring down rates for Oklahomans. That is goal number one. And I want Oklahomans to understand that they have an ally with the Oklahoma Insurance Department, and not just an empty complaint department. I want them to feel like that they're going to be heard and that action will be taken on their behalf for the betterment of all.
I don't think you could end it better than that. I want to thank you, one, for coming in today, and two, thanks for stepping up and being willing to serve. It's, public service comes with a big sacrifice to your family and your professional life, and but there's an old saying, you're only as good as the people you get elected, and your policies are only as good as people that are willing to run. So thank you personally for stepping up and being willing to do that, and thanks for coming in and spending some time with us today.
It's been a pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.